So I took the joint, here the typical Tommy Chong, I took the joint and put it in my pocket. And so Raymond said, wow, so he lit up his joint. And we smoked his joint. So it was the first time I'd ever tried pot. And then I was in the jazz club, and so then I sat and I listened to Ornette Coleman play a tune called Lonely Woman. So if you want to go to it, it's out there. Oh man, it changed my life. I could literally see the lonely woman sitting in the hotel room with this beautiful haunting sax. And then I went home and played the Lenny Bruce record. And I'd take a little toke, just one little couple of hits, and then I'd put it out. That joint lasted me a month. It did. And at the end of the month, because I wasn't sure, because all the, all the literature that, you smoke marijuana, you're gonna have kids that look like a foot. So I was a little worried about it, but then it just made me appreciate comedy and Lenny Bruce. And I had a friend that used to come over. I grew up with, my childhood buddy, and he didn't smoke, and he drank, but he didn't smoke, and he wasn't really interested in what I was interested in. But he did get hooked on the Lenny Bruce record, and we had a lot of laughs. And then after that was during that period that I had to really make up my mind at school, because I was getting so many gigs that I wasn't doing very well in school. There were certain classes that I would fall asleep in. And in fact, it got to the point where the teacher would tell the guy sitting next to me, would you take Tommy to the next class and wake him up? And so we just realized that school was not, in my future. I needed to get on the street to get some really street cred.
Well, it seemed like music was really your future, at least at that time. And back in Vancouver in 1966, you started playing guitar in a band called Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers.
Yeah.
Who eventually were signed by Motown. The band cracked the top 100 in 1968 with hit song "Does Your Mama Know About Me," which was co-written by Tommy Chong. Let's listen.
Does your mama know about me? Does she know just
Tell people about Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers.
Well, first of all, that was Wes Henderson from Edmonton playing the bass. And Motown was weird. When they heard our band, they didn't, use their musicians. They used our musicians. And so that was Wes Henderson on bass and Robbie King on the organ, and Ted Lewis or Doris Maxwell on drums. It was us. Except me, I wasn't on guitar, I wasn't good enough.
You didn't play on it?
No, I didn't play on it.
No?
I sang on it though, but I didn't play it.
How did it happen? How did you meet Bobby Taylor?
Bobby Taylor was weird. Tony Melton, the football player singer, he always wanted to try to make it in the States and that. He was very ambitious. So we would go down to California and try to play in little clubs and then try to get discovered, try to get a gig, But we weren't that strong. Tommy wasn't that strong. And then we came through San Francisco, and we got a gig playing one night a week at Big Al's strip club. And that's where we met Bobby. Bobby was one of the singers that was working during the week. And then Bobby heard our band, and Bobby is really a friendly guy. He was a nice guy. And in fact, he got us a gig. And then when we got back to Vancouver, Floyd, our drummer, who ended up being the drummer for Three Dog Night, he quit the band. Because him and Bobby had a little argument on the way back. It was pretty funny. Because Floyd, he was a little guy when he joined the band, but then he grew into this big 6-foot monster. And Tommy called him Mighty Joe Young, and Floyd really took offense to that. And so he stopped the car. And so they wouldn't stop. We kept going, but anyway, Floyd quit. And so we needed a drummer. And so we phoned Bobby, and asked Bobby if he knew of a drummer that we could, you know, bring down from the States. And Bobby said, "Hey man, I can play drums." And so right away I said, "Whoa, that'd be great." And so Bobby came down, and then Tommy eventually quit the band because Bobby was such a strong singer. And that, then we attracted, when you get a good band or good musicians, you attract other musicians. And so we had all the good musicians in Vancouver coming to the club, and next thing you know, Bobby's in the front. And we never had a name of the band. We never had a name. And so when Diana Ross and the Supremes, they came to town one time and they saw our band. And so Diana Ross called Barry, and Barry Gordy flew out and saw the band, and loved us and signed us. And we never had a name, so they called us Bobby Taylor and the Vancouver group. And then it ended up like Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers. And so Bobby and I were trying to think of names, and we thought, and Bobby's really funny. And so we thought, we heard about this band in Texas called 10 Screaming Niggers. I got it, we'll call ourselves 4 Niggers and a Chink. And so we did, we put it on the marquee. We didn't tell my dad, we didn't tell anybody, we just put it up on the marquee. Now appearing 4 Niggers and a Chink. Right here, and what street was on? Davie Street. And, well, we got phone calls from the, you know, Associated Press called up. "Is that true? You got the guys playing there?" But it didn't work. That night, no one came to the club. Nobody, except one black, angry wrestler, woman wrestler named Lottie the Body. She was a stripper, but mostly a wrestler. She came and she sat in the front row and just stared at the band. And then after we played a couple of numbers, she goes, "Well, I see the niggers, but where's the chink?" So my dad, who was Chinese, didn't know what the hell was going on. He heard that word. He goes, "What?" He walks over to Lottie the Body. He goes, "Hey, listen, we don't stand that kind of language in here, lady," or something like that. And so Lottie stands up and grabs my dad and body slams him. She bang. And so that's my dad. So I took out my guitar and ran down there, and she grabbed me, picked me up, and body slammed my ass. And my brothers stayed laughing their ass off. They're just cracking up. And so we changed the name after that. We changed the name to 4 Colored Guys and a Chinese Lad. But Motown went with Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers.
Okay, so you were on Motown with Jackson 5 and Diana Ross and the Supremes and Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye.
Jackson 5 weren't on.
Oh, yeah, before that, right? Because you had a hand in them getting signed. Tell everybody how you helped Jackson 5 get signed to Motown.
Well, the record turned out to be hit, and by the way, when you heard the record, it was the quality, the recording quality was shitty, because the Motown people, they never put us in the good studio. They put us in the secondary studio. They didn't have much faith in us, but the record came through anyway. And so it went viral, you know, in the black community. And so we were playing in Chicago. We had a gig at the Regal Theater. Because one of my bucket lists when I was a kid was to play in all the soul places, you know, we called it Chitlin Circuit. All the black guys, James Brown would record live, Stevie Wonder, everybody played the Paramount Theaters and Regals and that. And so we played the Regal Theater in Chicago, and we were co-headlining with Jerry Butler and this new group that won a contest in Gary, Indiana called the Jackson 5 plus Johnny. That was the name of the group. And when we heard Michael and them sing, Bobby immediately, we immediately saw stardom there. You know, we saw that. And so Bobby talked to Joe Jackson and the 5 to come to Detroit and live with Bobby in Bobby's apartment, and until they got him signed to Motown. And the funny thing is, when they got the contract, Joe Jackson brought the contract to me because I was the only white guy he knew that looked like a lawyer. You know? So he brought me the contract, and I picked it up, looked at it, and said, "Well, looks good to me." 7 years, you know, and your kid's going to learn everything, all the Motown stuff and that. And so it was that we were that close. We could have Bobby and I, we could have signed them, we could have done all that, but Bobby did record I think their first 3 albums. Bobby was a producer on them. So it worked out pretty good.
And did you meet all the others, Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye?
Oh, we played with Stevie, we played with Marvin, we got high with Marvin. Oh, Marvin Gaye was great. And the Temptations, they broke up, and the lead singer of the Temptations, David Ruffin, would follow Cheech and, not Cheech and Chong, the Vancouvers around. Wherever we played, our guest star would be David Ruffin. And he'd come up and sing with that beautiful Temptation voice of his. No, we met him all, played with him all. We went on tour with Diana Ross, and that was crazy. My dream came true. I wanted to be on the children's circuit, so I spent a month riding on a fucking bus. Sitting up, there's no sleeper, you're sitting right next to someone else, you know, and you go from one gig to 12-hour drives, and it was pretty crazy, but we did it. And when we were on the road, because Bobby Taylor was really the instigator. He could have been a big comedian, you know, but he had such a good voice. But we would sing songs, like when we do Does Your Mama Know About Me? I started doing a little rap, you know, Does Your Mama Know About Me? You know, and to all these white people, because it was all white people back then. And so Bobby, at one time we did a Parliament song called, the lyrics was, "Ooh, white girls sure look delicious to me." And so Diana Ross would write us notes saying, please don't do the white girl bit. And of course we'd go, oh yeah, right, Diana. Ooh, white girls sure look delicious to me. And finally she got pissed off.
Well, maybe good though. Well, maybe that'll be the answer to this question. So you did a lot of traveling back then. You played gigs all over Canada and the U.S. You moved to Detroit, and you lived with your first wife there, right, Maxine, and your daughters, Ray Dawn and Robbie. You lived there until you were fired from the band. What happened?
Well, I also had my girlfriend with me too. Like I said, I'm a musician. That's allowed. I had a wife, a 2 kids, and a girlfriend with a baby on the way. And the girlfriend is now my wife. My first wife was very kind enough to kick my ass out. And I've been with my current wife now, Shelby, ever since. But so Shelby was with me. So what happened? We got so popular that with the records, we forgot we were Canadian. And so Christmas time comes, half the band goes back to Canada for Christmas. And then coming back, well, we're with Motown. Well, where's your green card? No green card. So the next morning, the immigration came and knocked on our door, all our doors, and deported our ass, pulled a Donald Trump on us. You don't have to stay here, you know, don't have to go, you can't stay here, you gotta get the hell out. And so they kicked us across the border to Windsor. And that's where my girlfriend had her baby, now wife. And yeah. And so anyway, I had to get a green card. And I was the only one in the band that really wanted a green card. All the rest of the Canadians out like that. But I wanted a green card. I definitely saw the value in it. And so Barry Gordy set it up with his lawyers. But he didn't tell Chris Clark, who we were now working with. Bobby Taylor had split and went solo, and he was doing solo albums. The band was backing up Chris Clark, and we had a gig in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And I told everybody there, you know, listen, I have to leave Saturday to go do my green card interview. And I had the bass player, Wes, I was getting him a green card too. And so the tour manager told me, he said, if you leave, you're going to get fired. And I kind of laughed, you know, because he was a tour manager. Who gives a shit about him? And so anyway, Saturday came, I went back, did my interview, got my green card, or, you know, got the next step toward a green card. And when I got back to Cherry Hill, New Jersey, they fired me. They literally fired me. And it was weird. I've never been fired in my life because I never really had a job. And the band was mine. You know, I started it, you know, I had the clubs, everything, it was my band. So when they said you're fired, I looked at the band for support. And the true musicians, Canadian musicians, they just looked away. Not me. And so I had no support. So I got my amplifier and my guitar, and I was feeling really low. And I went back to the motel where my girlfriend was there, and she goes, "Oh, is the gig over early?" I said, "No, I got fired." And she said the words that changed my life. She says, "Oh, that's good. That band sucked. Come to bed." When she said that, I just, I love this girl. And so the next day, we saw a movie called I Love You, Alice B. Toklas. And I saw all the hippies in California. And I said, well, I'm fired. I don't have to stay in Detroit. So let's go to California and write songs and live on the beach. And that's what we did.
But isn't there a step in between that? After Motown, did you move back to Vancouver?
No, that was after.
After Motown?
I don't know what I did. After Motown, I went to California. And I lived on the beach. And I wrote songs, or tried to. And then the clubs got a little bit in trouble. And so I had to come back to Vancouver to work on the clubs.
Okay, so to bring you back around to that time, you know, when you started to go from music into sketch comedy, right?
Yeah. Well,
So and you were working at these clubs like Shanghai Jump and Blues Palace and Tease Cabaret and Elegant Parlor. Anybody remember any of these places? New Delhi?
No, that's too old for these.
Yeah. So how did you decide to go into comedy? How did you make that change?
Well, when I was in the States, especially in San Francisco where we met Bobby Taylor, on that street there was an improvisational theater called The Committee. And so when we only played one night a week, and so I had a whole week to hang out on that street. And the sketch comedy really attracted me. And so I went in there, and I never laughed so hard in my life to these guys acting crazy doing improvisational comedy. And so every night I'd try to find some way to get to see these guys. And I learned all their bits. You know, being a musician, you can hear a riff and you learn it. And so I learned all the comedy riffs and everything. And so when I went up to work in the strip club in Vancouver here, I thought, wow. One thing I noticed, the strippers, when they walked into work, they looked really young and beautiful, and street clothes and very hip. And I thought, now that's who I'd like to see take off their clothes, you know. Not when they put on all the makeup and all that other shit, you know, they cover all that beauty and all the youth. And so being an owner of the club, I said, well, we're going to change it. We're going to turn the strippers into actresses. And it was perfect because, believe me, every stripper is a phenomenal actress, just from experience, you know, what they had to do, you know, because they're acting. And they may look like they love you, but no, they're acting. And so when we did sketch comedy, they were the best. And so we needed the opposite. We needed a straight man. And so I hired some real actors. I hired a guy named Rick Lenz. He was a serious theater actor. And so he played the straight part. He played the cops and he played the very straight guys. And so we did a promo picture with the strippers, or now actresses, with their titties pressed against Rick Lenz's face. And it hit the front page of the Vancouver Sun. And his wife, who thought he was doing community theater, she took a look at that. And next thing you know, I get a call from Rick, I gotta quit. So he quit. And so I needed a straight guy, so that's when I found Cheech.
Right, so this is around the time you met Richard Marin, before he was known as Cheech. He had burned his U.S. draft card and came to Canada, and the two of you were introduced and started working together with him as the straight man. So tell us about your first memories of the man who would soon be christened Cheech.
Well, when we were looking for the straight guy, it was a guy, a Russian kid named Ihor Torduk, I think his name. He had an underground newspaper called Papa, and Cheech was working for him. And so when Ihor heard that I was looking for another actor, he said, you gotta meet this guy, he's really funny. And so I went out to where Cheech was working with Ihor, And it was the first time I'd seen a Mexican up close. It was a weird feeling. I just wanted to touch him. Growing up in Canada, you know, every Mexican I saw wore a sombrero and he's leaning against a cactus and he's sleeping. So I figured they're tough. So when I met Cheech, it was weird, and he had the same. He looked at me like I looked like some kind of biker Mongol, you know. And but so I said, told Cheech what I had going. Are you interested? He said, I'll come down and take a look. He didn't say yes right away. You know, I told him the strippers and everything. He goes, well, I'll come down and look at it and see. So that night. Yeah, I think it was that night he came down, and we're backstage, we're looking through the curtains, we could see the audience, and so I told the girls, you know, everybody in the crew that we got this kid coming down. And so Cheech walks in, and he's with the most beautiful woman I've seen in ages. You don't see a woman like that too often, but she had a full-length, beautiful mink coat on, and she looked like Hollywood movie star, and much taller than Cheech, and she comes walking in. And I looked at her and I said, he's hired. Because whatever he's got that can attract something like that, I want on stage. And sure enough, but what I found out is that she actually was there to break up with him. Because he wasn't going anywhere with his life. And so Cheech joined the group, and around that time, acid had hit the scene, you know, 68. And so we spent a lot of, in fact, that night when I saw Cheech, I was on acid, so of course everything looked beautiful. And so the whole improv group that we worked were always stoned on hash, pot, and acid. And when you do improvisational on acid, oh boy, you get details. Oh, it was great. I wish we had filmed some of the performances we did, but they weren't all great. And we had a light man named Strawberry in fact, Strawberry's in our bits all the time, because Strawberry was a great equalizer. He was this young hippie with red hair, and his hair flowed all the way down, long red hair. And when I met him, Vancouver was on a garbage strike, and so he was sitting on Granville Street on a big pile of garbage, and there's a light rain coming down, and he's just sitting there, and he was stoned on acid or something. He's smiling, he had that cosmic smile. And I just was attracted to him, and I talked to him, and he said, hey man, you know where I can sleep? And you got a place where I can sleep tonight? And I said, well, I got an empty nightclub, you can sleep in the light booth there if you want. Oh, thanks, man. And he was so beautiful, and so he moved into the light booth, and then he'd be our light guy. And we'd have to do, the light was very simple, you turn them on. And when you say blackout, you turn them on. Strawberry could never get that shit. She should be up there, or David Graham was actually my first partner. David Graham, Strawberry, because we're holding a pose, waiting for the blackout. Strawberry! And then if we did a bit that didn't go very good, Strawberry would go back and say, oh man, that bit really sucked, man. And we'd try to argue, no, man, look at the people, they're leaving, man. They're horrible. You guys suck. So that's where Cheech and I really got our whole, you know, from hanging out with the Vancouver people.
Unfortunately, I have to leave Vancouver and go down to LA to tell the rest of this story, which is you guys moved. I don't know exactly what, you know, you and Cheech and Shelby and Precious and the whole gang all moved down to LA in 1970. And around that time, so Cheech and Chong, you formed Cheech and Chong, and which would become one of the top comedy acts of the 70s.
Well, what happened is when we got fired, my brother actually fired us because we had changed the crowd from a rowdy biker supported, you know, throw money anywhere at crowd to a sophisticated theater crowd that would order their wine and then they would count their change. You know? And we'd packed the joint, but we weren't making any money. And so my brother said, hey, you guys are out of here. And so everybody else, you know, Vancouver people, you know, they don't like to leave Vancouver. And so what they did, so they quit. So Cheech and I were the only ones, we were the only ones that wanted to keep it going. And so we formed a band, we put a band together. And, and we played a battle of the bands at the Gardens, and we never played a note. The band's up there waiting, and Cheech and I went on and did 45 minutes of comedy. And then at the end of the comedy, we took a bow, and the band goes, hey, when's our next gig, boss? And so that night, we're going home, driving home, and it was a rainstorm, and the windshield wipers weren't working. And so we tied a, you know, Vancouver ingenuity, we tied a coat hanger to the windshield wipers and leaned out the window and worked on it. And we're taking turns doing that, trying to figure out our name for our band. So I'm driving, you know, Cheech is out there doing the same thing. And we tried Richard and Tommy, nah, that's horrible. Because I said, no more, you know, city work kind of names. We gotta put our names so that we can't be fired. And so we tried everything, and then I said, do you have a nickname? He said, Cheech. And then it just rolled off my tongue. I said, Cheech and Chong. Wow, that's it. And I remember doing the windshield wipers going, Cheech and Chong, yeah.
It was never Chong and Cheech.
No?
It doesn't sound right.
We got, in fact, we had our name read one time by a linguist or something in UCLA, and she ran it all down, how it's very clever to use a first name and a last name, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so now your career is sort of starting to really pick up some steam in LA in '71. Did you begin?
Think of steam, let me tell you about steam. You go back there, we had nowhere to stay. So I had to now move back in with my wife, who by now knows that I got another family, another daughter, you know, the whole thing. Now, I'm not a musician anymore. When she married me, I was a musician. Now I'm a comedian. And comedians don't have the same power that music has over the wife part. She was as sweet as can be. We stayed there, we did a few gigs while we were at my wife's house, and then she said, you gotta go. You're not really, you know what happened? I got my wallet, I got pickpocketed. Somebody stole my wallet. I didn't have shit in it anyway. But I stole my wallet, but someone stole my wallet at a club. I remember exactly who did it, and it was a scam, and I got scammed. And so I went home to my first wife, and she goes, okay, that's it, you're out of here. And then my girlfriend had come up from from Vancouver to give me the ultimatum, either I make a choice or she's out of here. So that choice was easy. I'm here, baby.
What was Steve?
No one else wants me, so.
What was Steve? Yeah. Steve? We used something about steam, I don't know, it says it picked up steam. It's kind of, I was wondering how we got there, but that's okay. What I want to do, that's okay. What I want to do, though, I want to go into Tommy's career as a stand-up comedian with all those great albums that I'm sure everybody remembers, and one particularly famous bit called Dave's Not Here.
What is it?
Hello?
Who is it? Who? Can we hear that other? But you don't know how to work a record player? Who?
Dave.
Dave?
Dave's not here.
Dave's not here. Okay, we get the idea.
All right, I guess
Okay, let me tell you that story. When we arrived in LA, Red Fox, who I knew from the Elegant Parlor, dear, really good friend of mine, I called him up and told him that I'm into comedy. He said, oh, great, man. He says, go on down to the club. So Cheech and I went down to the Red Fox Club on La Cienega, and we did a set. And our set was actually too gross for them. It was funny. But it attracted Lenny Bruce's old entourage. Lenny had died a few years earlier, but his entourage still hung around, like his mother and his roadies and everybody, they hung around, and his ex-manager, Tony Pescara. And so Tony, he saw our act and he ran right up to me and he says, hey man, you got what Lenny's got, you know, what Lenny had. You're the first guy I've seen that had that. And so, whoa, that was great. So Tony became our manager for a while until we had him, you know. He was a junkie, so it was kind of hard having a junkie manager, you know. It was, but anyway, he got us going into all the open mic nights. There wasn't any comedy clubs back then. There were folk clubs, and one of the biggest folk clubs was the Troubadour. And so Cheech and I, we on our own initiative, you know, in order to get on the freebie night, you had to line up 9 o'clock in the morning at the box office and wait for it to open at 6, so that you could be the sixth person on, you know, the best time on. And so we did that a couple of times. And then we started attracting crowds, and that's when Lou Adler and all the record industry saw us. And that's when Lou invited us into his office and offered us a contract, and we took it. And we took a little tape recorder to rehearse. And so Cheech and I went into this, it was an A&M Records, and it was hot. It was about 110 degrees outside. And so Cheech, he's what do you call it, method actor. So he put on an overcoat and got a hat, and he's gonna go out, he's gonna be a dealer. And he's knock on the door, now I'm supposed to open the door and let him in. And so, but the door locked from inside, so he went outside, and he's in the hot, and he knocks on the door, and I was trying to get the little tape recorder to work. And when he knocked, I got distracted. I looked up, and then I looked down at the tape recorder, and the needle was still, it wasn't moving. So I just paused a little bit, and he knocked again, and I saw the needle jump, and I said, oh, it's recording. But I also heard that, you know, he's pissed off, you know that kind of nod. And so I'm in the cool air-conditioned room. So I thought, how long can I keep him outside? The Canadian in me couldn't help it. So I said, who is it? And at first he goes, it's me, man. Open up. And then he fell into character. I got to stop, man. Come on, come on, sorry. So I just waited. And then he knocked again. And I waited. And I said, who is it? And he goes, it's me, man. Yeah, I can hear him melting down outside. And finally when he said Dave, and I said, Dave? And then you could hear in his voice, yeah, it's me, Dave. And then when I said, Dave's not here, oh, I swear to God. He banged on the door. We never recorded that part. Open the fucking door, man. So I opened the door and he comes storming in. He's throwing his costumes all over the place. And I said, wait, because he looked like he was going to punch me or something. I said, hold on, wait, listen. And we played it back. And we must have listened to that for an hour. And we laughed. And then Lou Adler heard it, and we recorded the record version of it, which was okay, but nothing near like the original. And then that night, they put it out in all the radio stations in America, basically. And we went to bed. No one knew who we were. We woke up famous. It was good.
Wow, I never heard that story. That's amazing. Though that came from your many albums you had, Cheech and Chong, Los Cochinos, the Wedding album, and of course Big Bamboo.
Yeah.
Anybody have this album with the big rolling paper in it? All right, so let's move on to the movie careers. In 1978, Cheech and Chong became movie stars thanks to Up in Smoke, which is regarded by many as the greatest stoner movie of all time. Let's play a little clip. See how this does.
That's our live act. That's where Up in Smoke came from.
So from up and stuff.